Hello everyone, my name is The Beat and welcome back to 100%ing every FNaF game, but I'm sure this isn't quite the video you were expecting to come next. So I don't think I technically announced it in my previous videos, but along with 100%ing every FNaF game, I'm also going to read every FNaF book. Yes, that's right, I believe last I counted there were 58 of them, although I think some of them haven't technically come out yet. There's a lot, and I know I'm sacrificing the sanity of my mind to read all these books. I thought, fuck it, let's go all in, and of course, movies will be included as more come out in these reviews and whatnot. So if you want to read along with these books, for some godforsaken reason, along with playing along with the games, if you already are, I've also included a list of every single FNaF book in the Google Docs that I have for 100%ing every FNaF game. So it's all there if you want to check it out, read it. So considering that this is the first video in this series, I want to give a super quick outline on how these videos are going to be formatted. Similar to my Totally Not Dead, I swear it will be coming back guys soon, Let's Talk series, I'm going to kind of give an intro, obviously, a short synopsis of the book, so spoilers ahead for anyone who hasn't read them, and then my review at the end of the video. And at the head of my review, I want to talk about, similar to my 100%ing the FNaF games, kind of where I was when a book released, if I remember it, because I don't think I can remember the exact place I was when Fazbear Frights 9 released. Also, what my thoughts of it were when I first read it, and if I did first read it. And then of course I'll get into my actual review on this reading of the book. You're all clear? We're all brought up to speed? Alright, perfect. So we're going to begin this video with a synopsis of Five Nights at Freddy's The Silver Eyes. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do for visuals during the synopsis part, because I have a whole script here that I've written for a synopsis. So if you just see visuals of me staring over here and trying to engage with the camera, you know I couldn't think of anything better for visuals. The story begins by introducing us to Charlie Emily, daughter of Freddy's co-founder Henry Emily, driving back to her hometown in Hurricane, Utah, for the memorial service of her childhood friend Michael. He was one of the 5 kids kidnapped and killed in Freddy Fazbear's Pizza 10 years ago, when Charlie was just 7 years old. The first thing she does back in town is head to her father's old house, reminiscing about her old toys her father made for her and rediscovering his old workshop. After reuniting with some of her childhood friends, Jessica, Carlton, and John, whom she hadn't seen since she left Hurricane after her father took his own life, they decide to go back to Freddy's and search the abandoned building. They soon discover that it has been built over by a shopping mall. After finding a way inside of Freddy's through one of the shops and nearly getting caught by the guard patrolling the area, the gang search the old pizzeria, reminiscing on their childhood and the shared trauma of the missing children's incident. The next day, the rest of Charlie's friends show up, Lamar, Marla, and her 11-year-old brother Jason, and they make their way to Michael's memorial service held at their old school. Before going back to Freddy's to show the newcomers the old pizzeria, Charlie and John head back to the old house, finding something new in the workshop. But before they can investigate, old memories take hold of Charlie and they leave for Freddy's shortly after. After another close encounter with the night guard, the gang make it back to Freddy's to continue exploring. Finding little control rooms filled with monitors, the gang soon figure out how the cameras work and how to make the animatronics move. Meanwhile, Jason finds strange drawings of a yellow rabbit that seem to move when he looks away. Whilst playing with the animatronics, Charlie accidentally gets hit by Foxy's claw and the night is cut short. The next day, Charlie wakes up early, suddenly remembering her father's previous diner before Freddy's. Charlie and John soon begin trying to find this old diner, with Charlie reaching into the recesses of her mind to pull out hints of its location. Soon, they find Fredbear's family diner, and whilst exploring the location, Charlie has a vivid memory of a yellow rabbit taking her twin brother Sammy away while they were playing in a closet. He was never to be seen again, and shortly after, Charlie's mother left, and herself and Henry moved to Hurricane and opened Freddy's. Going back to the same location later at night, they finally get caught by the night guard, Dave Miller. After bargaining with him to let them into Freddy's, offering for him to come along with them, they all enter the building and again begin exploring that they had done the previous 2 nights. But as Dave takes control of the animatronics, they soon all start to go haywire, moving erratically and violently as the lights flash and the speakers blare static throughout the building. Now wearing the yellow rabbit suit, Dave snatches Carlton in front of Jason as the rest of the gang run out of the pizzeria in a panic. They soon notice that Carlton has vanished from the group, so they all try to convince a young police officer nearby that Carlton is missing. After not believing the group, thinking that Carlton is playing another one of his well-known pranks, they all stay at Clay's house, Carlton's father and chief of police. The next day, when Carlton has still not returned, Clay sends Officer Dunn to investigate Freddy's, where he is unfortunately killed by Dave. Charlie and John decide to head back to Henry's house, finding an old photo album with photos of her mother, her father, and her twin brother Sammy before he was kidnapped. They then head to the library in hopes of finding out more information about her brother's disappearance, before Marla bursts in, claiming that Jason has gone back to Freddy's alone. It is then revealed to us that Dave has trapped Carlton in a springlock torso, where if he moves even an inch, he'll trigger the springlocks and die immediately. The rest of the gang go back to the building, finding that the entry has been welded shut, so they must crawl their way across the roof and down a skylight to get into the building. They split up in hopes of finding Jason and Carlton. Marla and Lamar find Jason in the camera room underneath Pirate's Cove, and Jessica, John and Charlie find Carlton on the cameras. Charlie begins towards Carlton before being stopped by Bonnie, running to the bathrooms for cover. John and Jessica get stuck in the camera room under the main stage, and Foxy suddenly takes Jason from his hiding spot with Lamar and Marla. Charlie eventually finds Carlton and is able to get him out of the springlock suit before knocking out Dave with a pipe. Meanwhile, Clay is at the police station where he suddenly realizes that Dave Miller, the night guard, is the same man as William Afton, the man behind the slaughter. John and Jessica eventually find Charlie and Carlton, and they soon discover that Dave Miller is also the man who killed the 5 children in Freddy's and Sammy, Charlie's twin brother. Marla and Lamar find Jason, and soon they are all reunited after being chased by the various animatronics around the pizzeria. Suddenly, they are surrounded in the main dining area when Clay bursts in, saving the gang, but not before William suddenly grabs Charlie in a yellow rabbit suit. Before he can harm her, Charlie sets off the springlocks, and they all leave the pizzeria, leaving William to die slowly in the suit, crumbled to the ground. Next morning, they all go their separate ways home, promising to keep in touch. As she drives away, Charlie finally remembers a good memory of her and her father. There we go. So that is the book. What did I think of it? I still so vividly, this is probably one of the key books that I vividly remember coming out. It was late 2015, so it was kind of just after the Halloween DLC for FNaF 4 came out, and I also specifically remember that because if you've been kind of following along with the story I've been telling in my 100% FNaF game series, it was FNaF 4 Halloween DLC where I started to stop being scared of Five Nights at Freddy's, and I actually started to take an interest in the series. And so of course when this book came out, we used to have at school like these little scholastic magazines where you would get them and you would mark what you wanted to order in the magazines, and you bring it back to the teacher with the correct amount of money, and then a few weeks later you would get whatever you ordered, and mostly it was books or like little toys or something. And I still remember the Silver Eyes being in there and me going to my mum and being like, what was this, 10 years ago, so I would have been 10 years old, being like, I want to get the FNaF book, and my mum like, you're not getting a horror book, you're 10 years old. So I wasn't able to get it, but about a year later we were in the city, we were catching up with an old friend of my parents, and all of a sudden we were in a bookshop and I found the Silver Eyes, and of course I turned to my mum and go, can I get the Silver Eyes? I was probably 11 now at this time, and she goes, yeah, sure, you can get it. And so I bought the book and I read it, and I wasn't much of a reader when I was a kid. Like in comparison to now, I read a lot more now that I'm older than when I did as a kid, so it took me longer to get through the book. But I still vividly remembering enjoying the book, being surprised at the crazy lore revelations, but also just really enjoying the story. And honestly, my same views and opinions of the book hold up 10 years later, the book just holds up really well as a young adult horror novel set in the Five Nights at Freddy's universe. It just in general is a pretty good book, and honestly I respect it so much for that, knowing that the Fazbear Frights books definitely go on a bit of a tangent with some of their stories. It's so weird to go back and see some of these events like the missing children incident and names like Michael and William Afton specifically being dropped. Like, we didn't know that the purple guy was William Afton until this book came out. It's absolutely crazy to think of that such major lore revelations like people like Henry Emily, Charlotte Emily, or in the book Charlie Emily, and William Afton are all such key characters to the modern FNaF lore, and it's just common knowledge nowadays. It was all revealed in this book. So one of the most interesting things going back to it so many years after was seeing how well specifically these major lore revelations and interesting events from the games were intertwined into the book without ultimately sacrificing the story of the book. I've talked before with media, there can be lore and there can be story. Story is what's up front and told to you in the moment, whilst lore is the more background stuff you need to speculate based on clues hidden within the story. And the lore does not sacrifice the story in this book, something I can very much respect about the Silver Eyes book, and from my memory of reading other books, some don't do quite as well. The book is co-written by obviously Scott Cawthon and Kira Breed Risley. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And Kira is a phenomenal writer. I haven't read any of her other books, I'm gonna be really honest. I don't know anything else she has done. But from what I've seen displayed in the Silver Eyes, she is a quite phenomenal writer. So effortlessly placing us, I really screwed up the pronunciation of effortlessly and then the pronunciation of pronunciation. I swear I can speak, guys. She's so effortlessly puts us into the shoes of Charlie, the main character in the book. Not only just from her perspective, but into her mind. We really get a glimpse into her thought process and what memories are coming up to the surface after she's pushed them down, being back at Freddy's in so many years. She really captivates how Charlie is feeling her PTSD after all the events of Freddy's when she was just a kid and her father taking his life, bubbling up to the surface now that she's back in her hometown and re-exploring Freddy Fazbear's Pizza so many years later. She does an excellent job of really putting us in those shoes, and that helps, at least for me, really get into the story, and then on top of that, visualize the places they're in, the characters they're meeting, and really get to connect emotionally with all the other characters and the situations they're all in the book. And for that, I really commend her for doing. Another thing I can commend her on in a similar vein is when I'm reading a fiction book, I really love to be able to visualize area, like almost like a movie playing in my head. That's how I like reading fiction books. And of course, Kira does a great job with that. She's so descriptive in her language and describing key areas like Henry's old house and the pizzeria and the animatronics and how they attack the characters and what is going on throughout the entire book. It's so incredibly detailed and I absolutely love the way it is written. My only gripe about the book though is that the ending just goes on a bit too long. They go into the pizzeria a total of 4 times. The 4th time is when Carlton is already trapped in the pizzeria and have to go in to get him out. And of course they go in, like I described, through the skylight, which they can't get out of. So most of the final few chapters is them not only trying to find Jason and Carlton, but then also trying to find a way to escape. But I feel like they could have cut like a solid 30 pages out and condensed the ending a bit, because you could kind of hear in my synopsis, I was trying to find a more streamlined way to tell the story, but so much happens. Like they find Jason and then they lose Jason again, and then they find him again, and then that side of the group gets chased off by Freddy, and then Charlie gets chased by Bonnie, and then she undoes Carlton's suit, and then knocks out Dave, which is all really enjoyable. But then they all reunite, and then they get chased by Chico, and then Bonnie, and then Foxy, and then suddenly Charlie runs off and has something to do with Foxy, and it goes on a little too long, and I feel like you can kind of tell like the characters were getting to their 4th or 5th encounter with an animatronic, and the writer, you could just kind of tell, was like, I don't really want to write another whole ass encounter with another animatronic. So it kind of starts and then like within 2 pages ends again, like quite abruptly, or not abruptly, but reading those bits, you kind of tell that not only was I sick of reading them getting constantly caught by animatronics, but the writer was also kind of sick of writing about them constantly getting caught with animatronics. The ending just goes on a little too long. It overstays its welcome by about 20 or 30 pages, I think. But after that, when they're finally all reunited and Clay bursts in and Charlie trips the spring locks and William goes down, all very similar to the ending of the FNaF movie. Now that I think about it, there were quite a few things in the book, like I mentioned, Jason seeing the drawings of the yellow rabbit, a lot of things that obviously the movie took inspiration from the book. So of course that ending was very good, and then of course it all wraps up very well, and I can't really just explain it here, but the final few pages where Charlie's having a memory of her father is just so sweet and so well written, and really leaves this book on a high note I quite enjoy. From my memory, the trilogy series of the FNaF books almost parallels, it's going to sound really weird, Back to the Future in a way, where the first book can absolutely be self-contained. Like, you can finish reading The Silver Eyes and go, yeah, that was a really good book, and you would understand everything, and it's self-contained. But the ending of the Twisted Ones, from my memory, leaves on a cliffhanger that is then finished off by the fourth closet. So one is kind of self-contained in its own way, like Back to the Future. Don't tell me, I know it ends on a cliffhanger that is then answered by the second movie, but if you just cut that cliffhanger out, number one is its own self-contained project, and then 2 and 3 kind of were made together as like dual parts. 2 ends off where 3 picks up. Anyway, that went on a bit of a tangent. Ultimately, really good book. I quite enjoyed reading it. That's all I really have to say. It was just, like I said, a really solid young adult horror novel set in the FNaF universe. What more can I say? If you are a fan of the FNaF games and the lore and you want to start getting into the books, The Silver Eyes not only is probably the #1 place to start because it is the first book, but it probably would also be the best place to start because it's a little bit more focused on one story. You can really get into the nitty-gritty of the characters and the surroundings and the animatronics, and it's probably the best place to start off. So, thank you all. Me and Freddy would like to thank you all so much for watching. Please consider subscribing to the channel if you do enjoy. I think, yeah, I'm in the middle of Deltarune Chapter 4 when this video is going to come out, so, you know, subscribe for more Deltarune and some more videos I've got coming up in the future, and of course, very, very soon, I know it's been a while, I will get back to 100%ing all the FNaF games, but now I gotta go read the Twisted Ones, and I'll see you again soonish for that video. Goodbye.